Yep.
Welcome to the Struggle Bubble. I'm Chad Cutting.
I'm Craig Sergi.
Today we're welcomed with our first returning guest, Rob Ludeman. On last week's episode, we talked about the journey throughout, elementary school, junior high, getting into high school, preparing the kids. Rob has lived that journey with his son going into college over the past, 9 months now, Rob?
Yeah, just about.
Just welcome to the show. Thanks for agreeing to be on again.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back. Not sure if people will remember or have recalled when I was on before, but I was just going out for a walk yesterday, day before, and thought, this would be a really interesting thing to put, because I was listening to some of the episodes that you've been doing lately, and it seemed like a really good connection and opportunity to extend those talk tracks.
Yeah, it's a really perfect time because we've drilled so much on the early days and made that comment of, what is it like? What must it be like to view through the eyes of a parent, a kid that's put in all of this work, has played their final high school game in epic fashion, both on the football and the baseball side, to then step into that role. So let's reset everybody and jump right into it real quick. Last time that we spoke, Matt was a senior. He was in the fall of the senior year.
And I think we were in the fall. I think football was about ended his senior year at Los Gatos. And we were approaching baseball, and he was trying to decide where he was going to focus, because at that time there was interest on both sports for him to do something at the collegiate level. And he started emphasizing and leaning into baseball. So, yeah, that's where we were last time, I believe.
And it seemed that decision's pretty difficult, but seasonally, when he was in football, he's into that mentality. He's kicking butt as center for, the varsity program, going to CCS that year. But then immediately after that season ended, you guys are out in the outfield playing catch. We were at our Little League day. You guys are going back and forth, that as I've seen for the past, 10 years. Where in the recruiting process was he at that point when he's transitioning from football into the baseball season? Did he have some colleges narrowed down? Was he being approached? What was kind of the interaction with the coaches there?
We had two approaches, right? One, there was you may not play sports in college, so you need to apply to schools. And maybe that's a backup plan, if you will, but he was dead set to go play baseball. Now, the prior summer, he had joined a travel team, he had joined CCB, and had gotten some initial interest. And then he did all the things that I recommend to us kids that want to play in college, which is you send out emails, you send out letters. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe you show up at some of those single school camps. I would not recommend the ones where there's 10 different colleges showing up, because they're just not worth the money. You just don't get the right exposure. So he had a couple schools that he had some initial conversations with, but nothing really firm. And part of his disadvantage was that he played football all fall. And so he missed out on what other baseball players were doing, which was going to Arizona and playing in fall tournaments while he was, snapping footballs to quarterbacks. And then his other really big challenge always was the physical nature, right? In football, he carried 255 pounds, and the season ends in the middle of December. And he then needed to go lose 15 or 20 pounds just so he could be more effective on the mound, pitching and playing. And that was always a big challenge. So he lacked a little bit on the exposure side, but I don't think he would trade it. Football was super valuable for him, and what you just learn being a part of that kind of team. And Chad, you played, and Craig, there's a parallel in playing, soccer as well, just having to learn and rely upon others. But yeah, that was effectively where he came out. Nothing really firm relative to schools, but just some feelers that were out there.
How far across the country did he cast the net of going to school?
He made his own decision, and that's something we can talk about a little later as a parent, that this is really the time when we realized we were there to support him if needed, but it's his journey. And he said that line a number of times when we went, well, don't you want to go to Colorado State, or you loved Arizona? And he said, I want to play baseball, and this is my journey. And what I do is going to be really different than what you guys did in college. You guys did Greek life and you had a social life, but this is something I want to do. But back to your question, it was his own decision really not to travel that far from home. So I think he set the boundary at maybe Colorado, which was as far east as he really wanted to go. He's a homebody like Julie and I are. And he ended up 90 minutes away by car. So we see him a lot more than if he was an airplane ride away, which we love, which is great.
anything past Arizona to me is East Coast. So
Yeah.
he's good.
You guys have a different flavor of coverage of the United States. It was always interesting to me going to school and growing up in Ohio. We had kids go to Oberlin, which is in rural Ohio, from all over the world. But my roommates, from California, from Southern California, you have to ask all those questions of why go all the way into Ohio when you have everything right here. And there's so many choices with the California schools. I mean, Oregon, Arizona, Nevada, makes so many great things on the West Coast.
If you want to play Division I baseball, right, there's a website you can go to called d1baseball.com or something like that. Like Texas, California, Florida, they're the schools with the most D1 programs, and D2 for that matter. Actually, Colorado has a lot of them as well. So I think that was a little bit part of it, staying close to home, but also there was more opportunity within the state to try to land an opportunity on a D1 program.
Did he come to you and say, I want to be a pro baseball player? Is that the end goal, or was it the end goal back in, when he was 16, 17, etc.? And I'm sure the answer is yes, but nobody really knows. I just want to keep playing. Number two, and we can get into this a little later, is how key do you feel? You made the comment about him having to drop weight to play baseball.
Yeah.
But how key do you feel the multi-sport angle is for him to get to the baseball program he's at today while carrying on? Because you said negative and positive, right? He missed out on certain showcases and things because of football. He had to drop weight for the mound and all those things. But I'd love to know from your stance how key that was for him to get to where he is now.
Yeah. So first question on his ultimate desire. Yes, there is a long-term goal. And I think any kid that's really good at any sport says, ultimately, I have a chance, albeit a very slim one when you look at the math and the statistics, to play professionally. And so, Craig, that was his ultimate goal. He said, I want to take a shot at doing this. I'm not good enough to go right from high school to pros. And again, that's a really small subset of ball players in any sport. But ultimately, that's his goal. And then the next stepping stone is, do I go play at a JC? Do I play at, he talked to D2 schools. Do I go play at D2? There's a ton of baseball players that play D2 and even D3, right? That made it to the pros. So yeah, that one for sure. And then, sorry, you hit me on the losing the weight and the fitness piece.
Just the multi-sport athlete all the way up to 18, because people talk about it when we're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, right? For development, different skill sets, whatever. But it's very rare. I shouldn't say very rare, but it is a small amount that play 2 or 3 sports that at high school that then go on and play a single collegiate. Like we have them in the soccer program, right? But really they're playing 3 in high school or 2 in high school and then they stop. Collegiate or college is a different experience for them. They go into club, they don't go into D1 programs. And on the soccer side, as you guys both know, our D1 players at the high school only play soccer. They don't play multi-sports.
Yeah, I feel like this is one that is a pendulum shift over the years, right? Where you go from specialization. I know it's a topic that you've covered on the program a number of times, but I mean, even when we went for his recruiting visit where he ended up, the coach said, I love football players and I love 2-sport athletes, right? Because you exercise different parts of your body. And even who was the gal who played on the women's soccer team? She's retired now, but she played 2 or 3 different sports. And yeah. And so I think it depends on the coach, but I think ultimately coaches will favor kids that play multiple sports. But then, Chad, to your point about having those challenges and those drawbacks about where you're not getting the exposure. Ultimately for Matt, we sat down and just said, do you love playing football? And he said, yeah, I love it. Great. Go do it. Right. Don't quit senior year just because you feel you want to get more time and get more exposure there. So again, I'd recommend it. You never know how long it's going to last, right? As an athlete too, you can get hurt and then you've done all this specialization, which by the way, there's theory and evidence as well that if you specialize, you have a higher percentage chance of specific injury because you're overusing certain parts of your body and not exercising others. So I think it was great for him. And ultimately it was just, do you love doing it? Then great. Go ahead.
Good. That's good to hear. It's really good because I agree, obviously, but it's good to know that you can get to collegiate level and play multi-sports all the way up to that point. And there's so much more time. I think people forget that 18 to 21 and then going into the combine or whatever sport you're in, that's when you specialize. 18 to 21, you're there to win, you're there to compete, you're there to show you to then go to the next level. Pre that, those collegiate coaches, dude, we love more youth athletes. We want you to be
Yeah.
able to run, throw, catch, sprint,
It,
whatever.
it's really interesting. You had Heath Clark on the program, I think, recently, a few weeks ago, that I saw that published. And Heath and Matt were pretty tight, even though Heath ran the defense and Matt played on the offense. But Heath was always in Matt's ear, you should go play D3, right? You love both sports. If you go play D3, which is what Heath did, I think, as well, go play D3. The rigors of practice and the amount of time that you have to train is less than a D1 program. And Matt considered it, right? He didn't completely shut it down. And there's a lot of great D3 schools up in the Pacific Northwest that would have been great fits. But again, speaking to the folks that have kids, that's a great option, right? Just go be an athlete. Go, if you're good at two sports, great. Go to a D3 school, get a good education, play the sports that you love if nothing else materializes. I mean, that's really one of the big messages that we learned throughout the recruiting process is find the level that you're good enough to play at and go there and play just because you love doing it.
How did that evaluation go, Rob, of the different levels?
I mean, ultimately, he wants to play pro, so going and playing D1, and I think if you asked almost every baseball player that is at Los Gatos now or that he was with, that's what they all want to do, right? That's where you compete against the best competition. And that's kind of crazy about what I look like. I look at what he's doing now, is every time he goes out and pitches, he's not pitching against a lineup where the third and fourth hitter are the best guys on the team and everybody else kind of stinks. He's pitching against the two guys, every guy in the lineup was the best player at their high school. And every at bat is a challenge and every player can hit and every pitcher throws between 87 and 93 miles an hour. It's absolutely insane. But his evaluation was basically, I want to play D1. If there's an interesting D2 opportunity, I'll do that. He kind of soured over time on the D3 thing. He just didn't want to play football, right? Because his knees always hurt. And then really he was lined up, since nothing really materialized through the process that was firm. He was set to go to Skyline and play at the JC there. And he had Ohlone talking to him and West Valley talking to him. And we visited Santa Barbara City College. And again, for baseball and even for football to a certain extent and basketball, those are great options, right? There's great options, particularly with how the portal is impacting player movement and older players transferring to other schools. The JUCO route was going to be a good route until something materialized. But Chad, his ultimate goal was, I want to play D1 baseball. Like, that's what I'm targeting. If an offer comes, it's the right school, the right coach, the right situation, I think I might play, then he was going to take it.
And as he evaluated himself amongst others, obviously Los Gatos plays a tough schedule, and you play against some of the best talent in the area, in the region. They went pretty far that year. Great to watch the postseason. How did he take that, his training and I don't want to say stats because that's not the right thing to track, but his personal statistics, right? There's in baseball, you need to be able to throw hard, you need to be able to locate, you need to be able to have your body in a certain, physical condition. How did he go about that training in high school? And I'm going to ask a follow-up on how that translated as he arrived.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the day-to-day practice that you have with the team, right? That's just, there's the hitting and you're throwing a bullpen and you're outfielding and a little bit of weights. But he worked really hard, particularly coming off of football. He was going to Adam Shorsher's facility over in Sunnyvale probably 4 to 5 times a week, maybe every day of the week before the season, but even during the season on weekends, he was going to get extra work and doing lifting on his own, doing speed work and running on his own. I mean, Craig, you would have loved if he had done even half of this when he was playing on your soccer teams way back when. And, he would just kind of just show up and kick the ball around with you, right? But something clicked, Chad. Like something clicked in him. I think once he decided that was his goal, that was his target to play D1, and he was super committed. Like he still had fun senior year. He still went out with friends. He still found time to do things socially, but it was very different than the 12-year-old kid where I had to drag him out to the fields at Saratoga and go, come on, let's hit some baseballs. You need to work on this. Just no desire. Okay, fine, Dad. And now this was all his. And again, as he said, as I mentioned earlier, he said, this is my journey. And he was all in. He was all into doing it. And part of going to Shorester's Place that had great exposure is there's college guys that work out there. There's even pros that work out there. So he's getting to look and kind of emulate like, oh, how hard those guys work. They're here all the time. They're here for 2 to 3 hours. They're not just throwing and hanging out and playing grab ass. They're hitting the weights and they're doing speed work and working on their craft. And I think that was a huge influence in getting him to remain focused as well.
We talked about that a little bit the last time that we met. Is once it clicks for them, it's massive. You're not pulling teeth anymore. It's their journey, but it's also when we as parents, you're like, I don't want you to quit. I feel like I do need to pull you out just to get that exposure. It's good to hear that there's a little bit of balance on their side, high school, college age.
It goes back, Chad, I think, to something we talk about all the time. At the early age, development age, is the love of the game. Because you've got to build that in at that 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to probably 16. They've got to love it. Because then when it clicks, your job's done. Like at the end of the day, I presume, Rob, he can throw a ball faster than you now. Right?
He hit that at 14.
Right. So at some point through that trajectory as a parent, you have to step away, and realistically, they are now training at a different level than you can even engage them with. So my job is to get them to that point, love the game so much that you now engage and you do it all on your own. You'll accelerate past me. That's my job. Where we get too many, I feel anyway, there's a lot of parents still dragging out like, hey, you got to go train. Hey, you got to go. Dude, if they're not going to do it at 14, 15, 16, or to your point, when he was getting ready for that collegiate experience, it's over, man. You can't keep pulling them out. They just don't love it enough to go and self-train. And that's the other point I was going to make was the role model side of this. Is him being in that environment and seeing those pros, D1 college, like, holy shit, I need to be that good to go to a school that I want to go to. Yeah, dude. Like, I talk about it all the time to the dance team. Work and basically talent, right, will get you so far, but work ethic will always beat talent. And if you can get the two together, you have a chance. But you got to drive it.
And to dovetail on that, it doesn't stop, right? And so, again, calling back on my friend who works at athletics, flash forward to July, Matt locks down the school where he's going to go. And on the evening he signed, within an hour, he had 3 distinct training programs. And the coach said, you're behind, right? Because we signed you on July 2nd, not back in May or back in early June. Every other kid that they had signed was ahead. He had a distinct throwing program, he had a distinct running program, and he had a weights program. And it was on him to figure out how and when to do those on the days that they were assigned. But my friend who works in athletics has told me this multiple times over the years. He says, I see 2 sets of kids that come in to play sports here. And he works at Northeastern now, but he's been at 5 or 6 schools. There's the kids that just float in, that are riding on their natural talent that they have had in high school. And you can tell over the summer they've not done any of the work. And they generally struggle. And he said there are the other ones that may not be as talented as those that have the natural talent, but you can tell all summer that they've remained committed to the training plan, and they show up ready, and they show up fit and ready to jump into action. And the coaches generally are impressed, or generally will give them more playing time, because you can tell that they've put in the effort. So that's advice I would give to parents to keep an eye on too, is right, if your kid does get an opportunity, that summer is really critical to working out and showing up, because they go day one. I mean, Matt started school on April 14th, and the following week on Tuesday they were practicing and they were lifting, right? And that schedule was every day except Sunday.
It starts before that, though, Rob. I mean, that is you set Matt up for success by modeling the behavior and the work ethic necessary so that when that decision point came, he was able to take it. There's a lot of the helicopter parenting that's happening right now. I see it on the tennis courts, just the public courts over here, where there's strict coaching, and it's not for the love of the game. It's because your mom or dad are saying, "Hey, we're going to be doing this and this moment."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even from what you just said, right? There's flexibility. You could have been the dad that said, "No, football is your sport. I don't care that you love that baseball stuff. Football is where the money is. It's where the prestige is. Go play football." Providing the flexibility of choice and doing it on their own terms sets them up to then say, "Well, if I'm gonna make it on my own, I need to put the work in."
Yeah. And it's our job to get them to that point, but we have to judiciously and deliberately let go. And that's hard, right? It's hard for all of us to let go because we've had a role in that process, but it is truly the mom pushing the baby bird out of the nest and going like, you're on your own. I will also say it helped once he started driving, like all that working out at Shorsh's facility thing. Like if your kids are not on the road to get their license around 16, that's where you should nudge a little bit. It's opening up freedom for you, but also it's going to open up opportunity for them to go do the things that they want, that they're passionate around, whether it's sports, whether it's dance, whether it's theater, what have you. I think just the whole driving thing opens up a lane for kids to be able to go and realize some of the things they want to do.
For sure. So I'm curious on Skyline's in the mix. University of the Pacific comes along at, not the last minute, but later in the process. What went into the decision to, we think about playing time, culture fit, proximity to home. There's a lot of calculus. It's his choice. How did he lean on you and Julie throughout that process, and what was important to him to make that decision?
Yeah, it came rather late, and it came basically because of the last two outings that he had, and it came because of a connection. The head coach at Sarah had worked under the now head coach at UOP when they were together at Delta Junior College up in Stockton. So the Sarah coach saw him pitch against Valley at Muni when he did really well. And then a week later, he was pitching against Sarah up at Sarah. And based on those two outings, I think that coach made a call to the head coach at UOP, to Reed Peters, and said, you should take a look at this kid, because we had no contact whatsoever. And first or second week of June, he had gone to, visit USF and throw for them. We went down to Bakersfield again, talked to Washington State. And then all of a sudden, the pitching coach at UOP came out of the woodwork, and they had some great conversations. I will say, I think you mentioned earlier, like, what are those conversations? Almost the first thing that every coach he's contacted asks them about is school. First question, not sports. What do you want to study? What are you interested in? What do you like scholastically? It's almost 5 or 10 minutes of conversation before you even get into the sport part of it. Julie and I mostly listened. We helped him explore the different trade-offs. We love the coaches at Skyline. We still love the coaches at Skyline. We follow them. They had a great plan. We had a great visit up there. But ultimately for him, it was, okay, I finally got that opportunity at a D1. And it was the only one he got, right? So it's not like, Chad, I can say we had to explore a lot of different choices. It was, do you want to go play D1 baseball, or do you want to go to a JUCO where you're guaranteed a ton of playing time and a lot of exposure and competition that you'll probably excel against, that you'll probably do better against, or you want to go take this D1 thing on? And I think it helped that UOP is in Stockton and 90 minutes away. I think that was good for him as well, that he wasn't going to have to hop on an airplane and go somewhere. So it wasn't a super complicated decision, which may be where you were going, but still, we had to have some talks around it.
How big was the coach in this process? Because I go all the time, right? You hear me say it. If you don't love the coach you're working with, you're going to really struggle. And now I say that both sides of my mouth, right? There's some players that need a coach that's a hard ass that's just going to drill them to get the best out of them. But there's some, that need the arm around them. It's going to be okay, whatever. So that's the first comment. And the second one was the schooling part of it, I think is definitely something to double click on, right? We talk about, you're going to go play football or soccer, whatever it is. And the kid that's going to go to Stanford, Ali from the high school, dude, she's like, I got to get my SATs. I got to get this score. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to Stanford.
Mhm.
Yeah. But my academics is so key. Even though I'm on a D1, like, I just get booted out. And it's funny you mentioned about the preseason training. She was talking to me about it. She's like, the minute high school soccer season's over, I got to get straight into collegiate fitness
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. It starts right away. Yeah. The school matters, right? And look, we've been looking at some of the CSUs and kind of looking at where Matt's grades were, but then UOP comes out of the blue. And if people haven't been to University of Pacific, okay, yeah, it's in Stockton, but not all of it's challenging. Like we've learned there's parts around the university, but it's a gorgeous school. And also it ranks pretty well on the West Coast. Yeah, it's private, but we kind of looked at that with the trade-off on some of the other alternatives where he could have gone. I was like, well, you're going to go and maybe you're going to get a pretty good education. And also they have a sports management major. They're one of like a handful of schools west of the Mississippi that has a major concentration, which is something that he actually wants to do other than playing professionally, which again, slim margin of doing. He wants to go work in college athletics or he wants to go work for a professional sports team. Great. Go play baseball, go study what you want to study. So yeah, the school part mattered. The coach part, I don't know, we're maybe a one-off, right? Because it was the only one that we had. Their head coach is a little bit more old school. He's not the put your arm around you kind of guy, but we really liked the pitching coach, right? We really connected with Grant, the pitching coach, who actually right before school started took a job at Sacramento State. They brought in somebody new. So that's again that changing game that happens
Pro
where
sports, right?
Yeah, coaches are moving around. So we had a really good connection with Grant, the pitching coach, and liked what we had to work with there. It changed. They brought a new guy in. It's been fine.
So you go from making that decision around playing time, getting that, we've gone, spread the gamut here. D3, you could go and just, you have the quality of life. You go in, you can play multiple sports, you get the playing time, you get the education as well. You can go JUCO, get the playing time. It isn't D1, but you could have potential to then jump into D1. You have an opportunity then to join a D1 team, not start. That isn't the guarantee. You're an 18-year-old going into a collegiate program playing against potentially 24, 25, 26-year-olds, depending on the redshirt year and everything else going on.
Totally true.
What's the mentality going in for him? He's put the work out and he approaches the season of potentially not playing. How does he keep himself motivated in the right mindset?
Yeah, I think any freshman going in, unless you're a bona fide star, right? Like Abby Nelson just signed with Carolina, Craig, or Berkeley?
Cal. Cal Berkeley.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Cal. There's somebody else who like she's awesome. Like she's really good. But if you're kind of borderline, and where it happened for Matt last minute, he went in realistically. It didn't keep him from working hard. He worked all fall. They play 1 or 2 inter squads per week, again, to give you an idea of the grind that goes on. Weights is every day before class or after class. Practice is every day before class or after class. All the classes are plugged into the middle of the day so that you have time on both ends. And you never really know going in how much playing time you're going to get. It wasn't really a big part of the conversation, right? He just wanted the opportunity. But you start practicing and looking at the other kids. And then, Chad, to your point, great point, there are 6-year kids that are there with the COVID year and with a second redshirt year, either for injury or just because you wanted to sit out and develop. So there's 23 and 24-year-olds, plus a whole bunch of kids that came in from JUCO transfers, plus a bunch of kids that came in from 4 years. And you're one of 4 freshmen that's maybe hoping to get some playing time, but then you start to see how you perform and you kind of gauge yourself compared to the other guys. So he was prepared for anything. And again, he said this is part of my journey. This is part of my journey. If I don't play much this year, that's fine. I think it was September, October, where they already set him up to play in the South Florida Collegiate League. So first week of June, he heads off to Boca Raton and is going to be playing as many weeks as he needs to hit that inning threshold that they want him to have that experience. And that was encouraging because that meant we felt that they were investing him in for the longer term and not just 1 year. But
explain that to the soccer guy. I have no
Yeah.
idea what you just said, upset Florida.
There are summer leagues for college baseball players all around the country. So it's made up of collegiate players. They sign them to contracts, but they don't get paid. You pay to play, but you get exposure and you get playing time. So it's like a summer league.
So if you're the starting pitcher for the college, you don't go play summer league.
No, he can go play summer. Anybody can go play summer
Oh,
league.
anyone can go. Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. It's a collegiate. There's one in Cape Cod. There's one in Pacific Northwest. There's one in.
Oh, that's cool. So you
around.
just keep You just keep playing all year round.
Yeah, it gives you summer reps, right? And a lot of times they use it for kids who don't like. He's pitched 4 innings this season in 27 games. He needs to get to 50 to 60 to get the experience and work on things.
That's cool.
They set him up for that, which I think is great.
Yeah.
It's a really great thing just about baseball, slight tangent of there's baseball everywhere year round. Yeah. And some of these kids are able to, you meet new people and just travel to different leagues, the Cape Cod League over in the New England area. You're just able to play and be around baseball, which is really great for these guys. With that comes the testing new waters and locations. Mm-hmm. So, Rob, as you've seen it in D1 baseball, we've seen it kind of more so in the football and basketball programs where coaches are just not willing to continue to coach at this level because you build a nucleus of a team that you think you'll have for 2 years, maybe 3 if you're lucky. But kids are, picking different schools, different opportunities, and they're not necessarily bought into the long term for the program. They're bought into the long term for themselves, which is good and bad. Everyone needs to look out for themselves. How have you seen it play out both there's 2 sides, as an opportunity for some of the kids, and then as a detriment because you might be a freshman, a sophomore earning your way into the starting rotation, and then somebody comes in from another part of the state, another part of the country to take that starting job?
Yeah, I mean, there's really 3 aspects, right? As you mentioned, one is you're really good. You go to a school. Carter Johnstone, for example, went to Fullerton State, baseball player, freshman of the year. Guess what? He transferred to Vanderbilt, and the cool part about that is his brother had 1 year of remaining and transferred from Washington State. So those boys are
and they're absolutely mashing.
And they're mashing. Yeah, they're fantastic ball players, but that's the side that more people see. More people see the I'm really good. I'm at this low level or mid-major program. I have an opportunity to go elsewhere. And I think a lot of kids come in and think that. And then there's 2, which I think is more where Matt's on the track because he's already said, I want to come back to UOP and play next year. I like the school. I like the team I'm on. I like the coaches. I like the situation. I like being close to home. And so I think there are kids that are going to invest in that program and grow with it. Now, things change. Coaches leave. Programs change. Transfers come in who may sit on top of your position. I think that happens a lot at the JUCO level where there's kickbacks, as they call them, where D1 program kids who get cut effectively, right? We had a Los Gatos pitcher who's now at Skyline because the school he went to didn't want him anymore. And so he bounded down to JUCO, which helps you work. But there was a kid at West Valley who was a kickback from, I think, Loyola Marymount. He got drafted in the MLB draft out of West Valley. And I went and watched him throw with Matt, and he's throwing 94 to 97. He's throwing seeds. And I think the Yankees drafted him just out of West Valley because he was throwing. So it kind of doesn't matter really if you're good, right? If you're good and you keep
say, Rob, the cream will always rise to the top. Dude.
Always rises
we say
to the
it all
top.
the time. Doesn't matter what logo you're wearing. You will be spotted. even Matt's experience, right? A coach saw him. You didn't even know this guy existed. Saw him pitch twice, made a call to a buddy, and then that built this whole program for Matt. You weren't even part of the
No,
bundle.
no. And the coaches that he's playing for now, they never watched him pitch live. They like when we went up there for the visit, they didn't go, okay, get on a mound and I want to see you throw 10 pitches. They just went by word of mouth of this individual they trusted. And then they went and accessed all the video that Matt was putting up on Twitter of his performances. And that was enough. That was part that was really curious. They never watched him throw live.
Rob, I have to dig into this, and I'm going to ask a bunch of loaded questions, and you're going to give it to us, honestly.
You got it. Bring it on.
How many travel ball videos did they watch during the recruiting process?
0.
Do you hear that, everybody? Let's repeat that. Travel ball videos for a D1 athlete, 0. Now, what are your feelings on travel ball for 10 to 14 years old?
It's a waste of time and money. Sorry, these are totally, we've had this conversation offline.
Hey. Take it easy, Rob.
Full disclosure for people, Matt stopped playing travel ball at 12 and played the summer before senior year when he was 17 because his private coach said you need to go do that and get some exposure. But we did no travel ball for 5 or 6 years.
What season of baseball does Matt remember the most?
Senior year of high school.
And they would... incredible CCS.
100%. And it was a great year and they all did great.
How does Matt feel about his years in Little League?
Oh, he loved his years in Little League, right? We still call back to that. We still sometimes watch video there and it was fun. I mean, Julie and I were just talking over the last weekend about the 10-year-old year where they went to the NorCal state and how magical that was and how fun it was to be with the other parents and that the kids had such a great time and performed so well and had each other's backs. Like that's the stuff we remember. But everything in between 12 and 16, there's really nothing noteworthy.
When you see the growth of Matt as a baseball player and just an overall athlete, where do you see the biggest jumps in time or jumps in ability over time?
They came around 13 or 14, and that was when he was getting some really good instruction from a private coach. And again, I don't recommend that for everybody if it doesn't work. And then somewhere around 17, like junior year, he started figuring things out. Like if I go watch his mechanics as a 16-year-old year, he had a ridiculous year, JV year. But if I pull up a video and show it to him, he goes, ugh, I look so weird there. And so it was really like junior year going into senior year where he kind of figured things out. And even Chad going into that senior year season, if I look at how he threw in March and April in some of the early games, it looks still different than by the end of that year when he was throwing in those postseason playoff games.
And Craig, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Sometimes it feels like Craig and I say the same things over and over again, and I'm sure we do. And sometimes it feels like we're just talking out of our asses. But then, right, empirical evidence right now, you have one of my favorite kids, so I'm completely biased, that I have met over the years from the Little League age all the way up to see his growth. You're saying the same story that we are, and you've seen it in real life. 12, 13 years old, which is puberty for most kids, right? Mm-hmm. You go from the baby to the kind of grown up. You're a little adult right there. Yeah. Right? You're a teenager, you're figuring your body out, but you're not developed yet. But you could be bigger, faster, stronger because it's that time for you. And then the big jump when you're approaching adulthood, 16, 17, 18 years old, where your body matures, you've got control of it, you've got the motivation that we just talked about, and the next level. And I'm sure there will be another growth curve that he sees going from the baby at 18 as a freshman to the seasoned veteran at 22 within college. But it's just kind of amazing to have that consistent story, which we fall back on, of have fun when you're a kid. Enjoy the Little League, enjoy rec soccer, enjoy just being in the backyard. If it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. But you have a little bit of the guardrails in place from a parenting perspective, from the organization perspective, without the pressure.
Yeah, he even asked to play basketball in NJB 8th grade year, and he is terrible at basketball. Terrible.
How many sports did he play in his life?
but we stuck him in it. Like, we stuck him in there, and he had a great time, doing his thing, running into guys, traveling all the time because he's terrible at dribbling. We had him in soccer at 5, baseball at 5 or 6, basketball. It was really just that one year. I don't think there was a time when he wanted to play ice hockey, and we're like, no, we're not. That's
an investment.
That costs too much, and the practice times and everything are kind of crazy. But yeah, and then football, we didn't put him in football. He started football in high school. He didn't need to go play Pop Warner or tackle. He played the very excellent flag football league at Los. I mean, that league that's all over the place at high schools now. Super fun.
Next level. Yeah.
Super fun. Next level. It's a great time, and kids get to be on teams with their buddies, and like, what's better than that? That's what it's all about.
I mean, that's the whole, you said 2 key points there, and Chad kind of just said, doing the full circle here, that 10, 12 younger age is the love of the game.
Yeah.
Simple as that, right? And that's what you remember, right? And now only at 18, we're looking at different things. But again, the flag football, the high school year, like, doing it with your friends is I get so frustrated when, like, you can't play soccer for high school next year because you're in the ECNL program or whatever. Dude, they won't remember the ECNL shit. They will remember winning CCS. 100%. Yeah. When they're 40, they will remember CCS over any of these other games. It really pisses me off when coaches start saying that kind of stuff, because I'm like, no, it's not. To Chad's point, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Right? Simple as that. The logo you wear is irrelevant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you're good, you're good. I mean, cream rise the top, whatever you say. Like, if you're good, you're good. They will find you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't steal the kids' enjoyment because you want them to go in a certain direction.
Yeah.
What is your current struggle right now? You've seen this journey. Matt's out of the house. He's only 90 minutes away, but still away.
Yeah.
What's the struggle right now as you see him, complete that career outside of the house?
So I think it's 3 things. One is, and common story everybody goes through at some point, like Julie and I are adjusting to him not being there after 18 years of him always being there. I will jokingly say that everything happens earlier now, which I sort of like. We go to bed earlier, we get up earlier, we eat dinner earlier, like a bunch of old blue hairs with the blue plate special. But it works for us, but we have a lot more time, and that's okay. That's not a struggle or a problem necessarily, but it's one that we're figuring out. 2, we miss him. He's a great kid. He's fun to have around. He's hilarious, and the blessing that we've gotten out of all this is that he is that close. He drives home. I mean, just the last few weekends, he's come home Sunday night after finishing his game around 4:35, and he shows up at 7:30. We have dinner.
Where's dinner, Mom? Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
Here's my laundry. Where's my dinner?
Wow, he brings a big giant bag of laundry, which is in a football bag that he somehow commandeered from the school. Shh, don't tell. And we feed him dinner, and we just introduced him to the show Modern Family, and he absolutely loves it. And we just plow through Modern Family episodes. There's that. The third, it's still hard to watch him without getting nervous. And all of his games are basically on ESPN Plus. So if we don't go, it's kind of a haul on a weeknight. We sit and watch it at home, and Julie has to leave the room, and I'm like up pacing. So again, not a horribly detrimental thing, but it's somehow even more stressful than it was in high school, just because it's at that high level, at that profile, where it is. But we'll learn to adapt, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll continue to feel stressed out about that. And then I guess 4th, I'll add on. I said 3. He would worry a little bit about his scholastics, but he's kind of figured that out. Like, he was kind of up and down as a student in high school. So I'm really impressed with how he's owned that. Like, when he calls us, I'm walking over to the library. I got a tough financial accounting test tomorrow. I'm like, library? You didn't even know where they hid the books in high school, and now you've made it part of your regular routine at college. You're growing up. I love it. It's great. But yeah, it's really adjusting to the empty nest life and what that time is, and finding things for us to do, and that schedule, and not being hermits. We get to get out a little bit. We're realizing that we've just become little homebodies, and so we're starting to reach out to folks and go, hey, let's gather and do some things. But I think that's part of just coming down off of all the sports act. When you're going out to sports, you're with the same people every year. You know, these are the baseball folks we hang out. Hey, there's the football people we hang out. Oh, there's a tailgate, there's a barbecue. You're with all those people. And so I think for the last 9 months, it's just been a little bit of decompression, if you will, from a lot of the social things that connect with being a parent of a sport kid.
14 years of it, right? We're all just hair on fire, get them to here, pick them up from, all of that to nothing. You're like, oh my God, I need a break. Like, this is nice.
I mean, it's the origin of your idea for this program, right? Is that struggle we all have with kid stuff. And now we don't have that, but we're trying to figure out what
different.
To do with that
time.
It's
just different, right? Now the struggle, to your point, the struggle is I'm watching him on TV and I can't advise him. I'm not there, right? You got to stand on your 2 feet. And if you play like shit, you play like shit. We'll figure it out, right?
I will say it's pretty fun watching your kid play on TV, though. That's kind of it's kind of a fun thing.
That's awesome. One last question. I'm going to frame it a little differently. Sure. Instead of advice that you would give to anybody going through it right now, what advice would you give yourself if you could go 10 years in the past? Anything you would do differently or any different mentality you'd have?
I think I would have worried less about the statistics and the outcomes of his games. I mean, I used to keep track in spreadsheets of all the things I can't even find those spreadsheets now, but the amount of time I would come back and grab the scorebook and, fire up the stats and collect them all. Like I would have just worried about that less. I would have just gone to the game and showed up and watched and just had fun. And I think that's the real big realization that's hard for all of us because we're spun up in the winning and the losing, and why I appreciate someone like you, Craig, right? Because I remember when you were coaching Matt in soccer, you didn't emphasize that stuff, right? The first thing you talked about was growth and was learning, and you challenged all the kids. Can you juggle a ball 10 times? Great. Now do it 20 times, and this is all good for your development. We may win, we may lose, we may tie. Doesn't really matter when you get down to it. Game's the game. But we're all spun up with that, and then at some point, it does shift and it does matter. But the 10 years ago me, I probably would have taken aside and had a chat and said, hey, just relax, just sit and enjoy the game, put the pencil away. Stop watching, stop keeping stats, stop freaking out if he strikes out, stop freaking out if he walks a guy or gives a home run. Like that's just going to happen. Just enjoy it, because pretty soon pretty soon you're watching on TV.
Yeah.
Well, it was advice for you, but great advice for anybody listening that has a 6 to 18-year-old going through right now, especially anybody that was playing softball or AA baseball the other day in Los Gatos. Go for a walk. Take a deep breath.
We have a rough one the other day, Chad.
They're learning, Rob. They haven't been through it like you and I. They haven't seen the older days. They think everything is the 7th game of the World Series.
Yeah.
Speaking of the World Series, you saw who just defeated the 2-time defending World Series champs, the Cleveland Guardians. No big deal.
I've heard of them.
If anybody wants to keep track of Los Gatos graduate Matt Ludeman's journey, there's some great games coming up. Looks like a 3-game, more than a 3-game road trip. They're at St. Mary's for 3 games. Bakersfield. Are you going to the Pepperdine series? That seems like a great vacation.
We're going to Bakersfield, actually.
That is the opposite.
Yeah, because St. Mary's a little tough. These next few days, we've got work and it's Easter weekend. We're going to Bakersfield with the idea that from there, it's only 2 hours to pop out to Cambria and Paso Robles and go out and hang out on the coast. So
now you're talking.
Springboard to doing that. And Julie never had to do a Bakersfield visit, so I had to do it twice. So I'm showing her what that was like. And we're going to drive down and do that. And then not Pepperdine. Pepperdine's a little hard to get to. And you know how Julie is with getting ready for school, coming off a break. So we just figured we'd be back, and the games are on TV. But yeah, plenty of games out there. And I guess the other offer I would make to anybody that catches this, if they're curious, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I don't have all the answers, but I'm one dad, I'm one parent who has gone through this and seen what my kid has done and what's worked, what didn't work. And so I'm happy to talk to anybody. If you know, you have a teenager and you're kind of trying to figure it out, just reach out through Chad or Craig and find me. Although most people know Julie, my wife,
the mayor of Los Gatos.
The mayor of Los Gatos, so they can find me through her, and that's fine as well. But happy to chat with anybody that is going through this.
Absolutely fantastic. Rob, we appreciate you being a supporter of the show, of us. You're welcome on anytime. You can be our 3-time guest for the first time.
I'll have to come up with another good idea, assuming this was a good idea.
This was a great idea. We can talk about brand renaming for Pure Storage the next time we get on here. I appreciate everybody listening. We will be back in a couple weeks, spending time with the kids over break for a little bit, but you can find us on social media and get caught up on all those back episodes. Go rewatch Rob's initial interview a couple of years ago and everything we've been up to lately. Until then, we will see you next time.
Adios.